Someone recently left this comment on my Procreate versus Adobe Fresco comparison video, and honestly, since reading the comment, I cannot stop thinking about it. So it has prompted me to create a mini series here on YouTube where I'm gonna break down the Adobe Fresco app and share all of the little beginner tips that you need to know if you are switching over to the app or if you are just starting out with digital illustration on an iPad and you're trying to decide if Adobe Fresco is really the app that you should be investing your time in learning. So let's go ahead and get into episode 1 in Adobe Fresco for beginners. If you are new here, welcome to my cozy creative corner of the internet. My name is Laura. I am a digital illustrator and content creator. And in this mini series, I am going to break down everything that you need to know about getting started using the Adobe Fresco app. Now, I have been using Adobe Fresco for a little bit over a year now, and I have absolutely fell in love with it. Honestly, it is one of the best digital art apps and programs that I have used. More and more of you have been saying to me that you are testing it out and that you're interested in it, but that you're experiencing a little bit of a learning curve because you're so used to using Procreate or whatever app you learn to draw in that opening up Adobe Fresco is a little bit intimidating because yes, the idea of starting from scratch and learning a brand new app is definitely frustrating. But don't worry, I have designed this mini series to go through basically the whole of the app and break everything down so that you know where all of the tools are, how to use some of those key different tools that you might be used to using in other drawing apps and how to get them to do the same thing that you need them to do in Adobe Fresco. And I'm also open to your suggestions. So if there is something that you are troubleshooting or trying to figure out how to do in Adobe Fresco, or you would specifically like to learn how to do in Adobe Fresco, go ahead and jump into the comments and ask me, and I will plan for it in upcoming episodes of this series. However, in this first episode, I thought we would just stick to the basics and take a little tour of the Adobe Fresco app because honestly, it is a very easy app to use. And for those of you who are watching that are skilled digital illustrators who have been drawing on your iPad for years, maybe the only thing that has been stopping you or the only thing that is blocking you is actually just knowing where everything is. Go ahead and grab your iPad and let's go through and take a little mini tour of the Adobe Fresco app. Welcome to the Adobe Fresco home screen. You can see some of the artworks that I've already created here in my little gallery. One thing that I love about Adobe Fresco is it does connect with your Adobe Cloud account. Adobe Fresco is free to download. It's free to use. You do not need a cloud subscription to use Adobe Fresco. You do need a cloud account in order to sign in and get access to all of the features of the app. So be sure if you have a cloud account that you are signed in. You can find the spot to sign in here in the top right hand corner by clicking on the app settings and then going to account. One of the benefits to that is that all of your artwork are automatically saved to the Adobe Cloud. You can see the little green tick on my artworks in here that have been saved to the cloud, but this means that I can quickly open up my artworks in Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator without having to airdrop anything. If you use Adobe Express, you can also access any of the artwork that you create in Adobe Fresco from your cloud file in your My Stuff folder in the Adobe Express app. So let's have a look at where everything is here in the Adobe Fresco home. So obviously we are in the home tab up here. That's why that is highlighted. Along the top, you will see the quick buttons for creating a new document. So I can quickly create a custom size by tapping on this. If you are an Adobe user, you'll be very familiar with this create a new document pop-up window because it's very similar to how you create a new document in Photoshop or in Adobe Illustrator or in Adobe InDesign. So this will be very familiar to you. At the top, you can name your document before you create it. So let's call this one test document. You can then select your dimension units. So you can choose from pixels, inches, centimeters, or millimeters. This is down to preferences for you, or if you are creating an artwork for a client, be sure to change the unit to match the actual unit of measurement that they have given you. You can then select the width and the height of your document by tapping on either of these boxes and putting in a specific unit of measurement. And then you can also change if you want from portrait to landscape orientation. If you press this drop-down menu, you're going to have your resolution settings. So you can also choose between PPI, which is pixels per inch, or PPCM, which is pixels per centimeter. So the recommended PPI is around 300. This will be like a high resolution image. You can also choose your background before you create your document. It automatically selects white, but if we wanted to create, for example, a digital sticker, we can choose to have our background for this file set to transparent before we create the file. And also, if you want to save this as a template, you can then just click this little box here and give your template a name. So you could call this my template, and then that's actually going to save it to your saved templates over here, so that the next time you want to create a document in exactly the same dimensions, you can just go into your saved templates. Speaking of the templates, before we go into the workspace, let's have a look at some of these templates. So the first little template tab that you see over here is your recents. These are the sizes that also pop up at the top of the app of the most recent document sizes that you've created. When you tap on saved, that's going to show you the ones that you have created. So those custom ones, like we just created one right now. If we tap on digital, there are some pre-created templates or document sizes that come in the app ready for you. We also have some print document sizes, common page sizes like A4, A3, or letter size. And then the final templates that we have are the social ones, which I think are super, super handy. There's a lot of really handy social templates already in there, sizes that you are probably looking to make. So that is how you create a new document. Let's click the X and go back to our home space because there's a few other things for us to look at here. On the left-hand side, we have a few other options in our home space. The first tab that we have is the Learn tab. Now, obviously, I'm going to go into a lot of things in this mini series, but if you are starting out using Adobe Fresco and you're eager to get going, or there's something specific that you are struggling to figure out, Adobe Fresco already have that built into their app, which I think is an amazing feature for beginners. They have lots of tutorials on different things like layers and brushes, and then they also have some featured YouTube tutorials that cover things that you might need to know or new features. There's also a little search bar up here, so let's say you wanted to learn how to use the color tool, you can search color, and then it's going to select videos or tutorials for you on that specific topic. The next little tab over here on the left is the Discover tab. Again, you're going to find some more tutorials in here and featured artwork as well. So if you're looking for some inspiration or you just want to dive into what the Adobe community is up to, this is a really fun tab to look at. The next little tab on the left-hand side here is the Your Files tab. We already kind of saw like a lot of my files in the Home tab, but you'll notice in the Home tab, it's only showing me my most recent files. So if you tap on Your Files, you'll see all of your files. So you can see every single doodle, artwork, illustration that I have created since I started using Adobe Fresco. Next little tab on the left is the Shared with You tab. Just like other Adobe apps, Adobe Fresco is built for that creative community. So if you are working on illustrations that you intend on sharing with clients or getting feedback on, or you are having someone share a file with you, you can find that in your cloud document section, so that Shared with You section. Also, it allows for commenting on docs for feedback, a little bit like how Google Docs work. Lastly, we have the Deleted tab. So anything that you delete will be put here for 30 days before it is fully removed, which again is just one of those little features where you're like, I don't think I'll need that, but then when you do need it, you're just like so glad that it's there. Because if you've ever accidentally deleted something from your Procreate gallery, you will know the heartache of not being able to recover a deleted file that you just deleted by mistake. Luckily in Adobe Fresco, if you accidentally delete one of your files or you're doing a little tidy around and you select the wrong one to be deleted, they all get put into your rubbish bin for 30 days so you can go back and recover the file that was the accidental delete. And then down the bottom, we have the shortcut to Create New, which opens up the little templates that we already looked at. You can also tap to import and open, so you can import a Photoshop file and you can go and browse your actual files on your iPad. So if you already use Photoshop a lot, you can save your Photoshop file as a .psd file and import it here. If you are someone who is switching over from Procreate, which I know a lot of you who are watching this are, you can export and save Procreate files in a .psd file format. So if you are making that move from Procreate over to Adobe Fresco, just know that you could save and export some of your Procreate files as layered .psd files and then bring them into Fresco here. Let's go back to the home screen and have a final look at what we can see here. Over on this top right hand corner, we have the new and upcoming features. When you open the app, if there's any news, this kind of pop-up window will come up to show you the new features anyway, but this is also a fun section to check out. I had the absolute honor of working with Adobe Fresco this year, and when I tell you get excited for the things that are coming to this app, get excited, because the team that works on Adobe Fresco, they have so many ideas, and this is just the beginning. There's so much good stuff coming to this app. Okay, that is the home screen where everything is. Let's go ahead and open up a document, a workspace, so we can actually see where all of the different tools are inside in the workspaces. This is an illustration that I created recently for a wallpaper collection for my Patreon members. It is the Coffees for Cuties. There is a lot to go through in the workspace, so I'm just gonna go through where everything is. I'm not gonna dive deep into any of the tools in this episode because this is just about getting to know where everything is, but be sure to click that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that YouTube reminds you when I upload the next episode in the series, where we are going to start to look closer at different tools and dive deeper into them. Today, we're just going to be figuring out where everything is. So let's quickly go through where all the different tools are. Starting on the top left-hand corner, we have the little home icon. If we tap this, it will take us back to the home space. Then right underneath that home space, we have the first type of brush, which is pixel brushes. There are 3 different types of brushes: pixel brushes, live brushes, and vector brushes. To change the brush, you just have to double tap on the icon and then it will open up the brush menu. And as you can see with the pixel brushes, there are tons of different brushes to choose from. You can also tap the add brushes here to discover new brushes. So I've already added a lot of the free brush packs that come with Adobe Fresco. Let's go ahead and add this gouache brush pack that I didn't add yet because that looks really nice. And then when you are done, you can go back here and tap to see your brush library and you'll see the imported brush packs that you brought in. You can also import brush packs. So if you have any Photoshop brush packs, you can import them from your files using that import from files button. Or if there are specific brushes that you would like, you can head on over to Etsy or Creative Market and look for Photoshop brush packs because they are compatible with Adobe Fresco. Next, we have the live brushes. So again, if you want to use the live brush, you tap on the tool icon. If you want to choose your live brush, you double tap. With live brushes, we have watercolor brushes and we have oil brushes. At the moment, there is no way to add or import new live brushes, but if you are someone who is a traditional artist who is trying to replicate traditional art in a digital format or trying to make edits to scans of your traditional art, I really recommend playing around with the live brushes because they beautifully replicate traditional medium. Finally, we have our vector brushes. So anything that you illustrate or create with these brushes are going to be objects and pathways rather than pixels shape. Again, you can choose from a selection of brushes here. You can create your own brushes by replicating brushes and saving them and adjusting the settings. So that's where you can see my library. I've created 2 like custom brushes here. My favorite vector brush is the basic round brush because my style is quite kawaii and I like clean lines, but there are a lot of different vector brushes to play with there, and there are more vector brushes coming soon. So if that is a feature that you love, definitely watch this space. Underneath the 3 different types of brushes, we have the eraser brush. So again, tap on it to use it, tap again to actually select your eraser, and your eraser will change depending on the type of layer you are on. So at the moment, it's showing me pixel erasers because I've selected a layer that is a pixel layer. If I tap on one of these layers, which are vector layer, and I tap on my eraser, now it's going to show me a vector eraser. You can tell what type of layer you are on by the little icon on the left-hand side of the layer. So you can see these layers have a little dot, which matches the dot icon of a vector brush. And then these layers have a little pixel, which matches the icon of the pixel brush. And then any layer that has that little photo icon, that is a file layer. So it's something that I imported from my files. So it is a JPEG or a PNG file. Moving on, we have our smudge tool. So again, you can choose from a ton of smudge brushes. Right underneath our smudge brushes, we have our transform. When we tap this, it opens up our transform workspace. So you can see it's going to hit a few tools. We can move and transform the layer. So you can see that that particular layer has been selected by a bounding box. I can now move it around. I can tap on these little nodes to resize it. I can stretch it out of form, rotate it by tapping on that top node and turning it over and back. I can also change how the transform works by selecting one of these options here on the left. So we have skew, distort, perspective. So again, whatever you click, it will change how the box reacts. We also have the liquefy tool. I'm currently on a vector layer, so it's telling me that it's not going to work because it's not a pixel layer. But if you are working on a pixel layer, you can tap on that to have that like liquefy effect. Over here on the top right-hand corner of our transform settings, we have things like the undo button. So we can undo or redo actions. We also have this mirroring tool here, so we can mirror from top to bottom, or we can mirror from left to right. Our next tool is our selection tool. There's different selection tools that you can choose from. So if you tap on it, at the moment I have the lasso tool selected, but if you tap and hold, it will open up a few different selection options. You can use lasso, where you can just draw around any object on the canvas to select it. There is the magic wand tool, which you will be familiar with if you are a Photoshop user. You also have pane selection, rectangle selection, ellipse selection, and polygon selection. So there is a ton of ways that you can select your objects or sections of a layer inside in Fresco. Next, we have our color fill tool, which does exactly as it says in the name, which is it will fill the layer or sections of the layer. Next, we have the shape tool. Again, if you tap on it twice, it will open up the shapes option. And the shapes in Fresco are a little bit different to what you might be used to as a shape tool. They're basically little illustrations or icons that you can add to your canvas. I don't personally use this tool a lot in my own artwork, but if you tap to discover new shapes, you'll see that there are some like typography templates. So if you do lettering and you want some guides for your layouts, there's like these really fun stencils that you can add to your layers. Next is our text tool. Again, this is pretty self-explanatory. If you tap on the text tool twice, you'll see that you have two options. You can type horizontally or you can type vertically. To start typing, just tap anywhere on your canvas and it's going to create a new text layer. And it's also going to pop up your text options so you can choose your font. Obviously, you can also bring in fonts from the Adobe font library. So again, if you are a cloud user, remember, you'll be able to access any fonts that you've already downloaded. You can choose the weight of the font, you can change the size, the alignment, and all the things that you're used to doing with text. Next, we have our color dropper tool. So this allows you to select a color to use for your brush from anywhere in the canvas. You can also do the same thing just like you do in Procreate by pressing and holding anywhere on the canvas, and then it will bring up the color picker tool and you can select the color that you want. Underneath the eyedropper or color picker tool, we have our import button. So you can add an image, you can import elements, you can import by taking a picture with your iPad camera, you can import from your camera roll by tapping photos, you can also import from files, your Creative Cloud library, or you can import from Lightroom. So if you use Lightroom for editing your photos, you can bring in your Lightroom edited photos directly to Adobe Fresco. Underneath our import button or import tool, we have our color tool. So if we tap on this little circle of color, we have our color wheel where we can pick colors. We also see the recent colors that we've used and our color palette. Next, we have brush settings. So when we have our brush selected, we're going to see different options down here depending on what brush we're using. But the basic ones that we'll see for every brush are the brush size. So if we tap on this number, we'll get our size slider, which we can adjust. We then have our smoothing settings. That would be stabilization if you are a Procreate user. The draw inside or draw outside tool, I will go into that deeper in our brush episode. I also do use it in this live stream that we did in July, so go ahead and check out that. Finally, we have our brush settings. Again, I will take a deeper dive into this in our brush episode, but just know that you can adjust and tweak your brush to your preferences using your brush settings. Okay, let's head on over to the right-hand side of our workspace and see what options we have over here. So first of all is our layers button, which is this little sandwich button. If we tap this on and off, we can pop out to view our layers. One small thing that I really love about Adobe Fresco is that I can have my layers visible at all times while I'm working. If you're a Procreate user, you will know the pain of drawing on the wrong layer and not discovering that until you need to like move or resize something. With Adobe Fresco, I can always see my layers while I'm working. I can always see which layer I'm on because it's the one that will be highlighted in blue. And so this is a game changer. I don't think I've ever drawn on the wrong layer since I started using Adobe Fresco because of this one little feature. The next thing on the right hand side here is our layer properties. So it tells us what type of layer we are on. So if I tap through to the different layers, you'll see that the properties that come up change depending on what type of layer I'm on. You can change the blend mode by tapping on this button. You can change the layer opacity by sliding up and down this slider or by punching in a number into this properties box. Next, we have our grid guidelines. There are lots of grid options or guideline options in Adobe Fresco. So we can turn on and off snapping for when you are using the transform tool. You also have your grids, so you can toggle this on, and there are tons of grids to choose from. You can see I have like a lot of different grids on right now. So we can switch to just a regular graph grid, which you might be most used to using. You can change the opacity of your grid. You can change the color of your grid. You can change the spacing by putting this number up and down. And you can also switch from graph grids to perspective grid and change how many vanishing points that you have, edit where the vanishing points are by moving them around. There is a ton of different things that you can do with your grid. Let's toggle them off so we don't have too much going on. And there is also a symmetry tool, just like in Procreate. You can choose which type of symmetry, so you can have reflective, rotational, and you can then also choose to move the guides to different parts of your canvas. The next button here on the right is our comment button. I briefly mentioned this at the start of the video when we were looking at the shared document section, but basically you can share your Fresco file with other Fresco users and they can add comments to your file using this comment section here. Next, we have our add layer button, so we can quickly add layers to our canvas. Then our little eye button here is to toggle on and off the visibility of any layer. And then this button is to mask it down onto the layer below. Then we have our appearances button. This allows you to adjust things like the brightness, the hue, and the saturation or color balance. And then finally, we have our layer actions button. So here we have the button to add layer, hide all other layers other than the one that you're on, which is also a really handy one to have. You can delete a layer, select multiple layers, create an empty mask, mask layer contents, set as a reference layer, lock the layer, convert to pixel layer if you are on a vector layer, or merge down into the layer beneath. Down here on the bottom of the right hand side, we have our animation settings. If you would like me to dive deeper into those in a future tutorial, let me know in the comments underneath. And then finally, we have this little ruler tool, which I just find very cute and fun because if you place this on your canvas, you can grab a brush, and if you draw alongside the ruler, it creates a straight line. So if you're struggling to make straight lines, or you need to make a straight line specifically somewhere in an illustration, you can use this little ruler tool, which is very cute. At the top of our workspace, we have our file info. So if we tap on this little arrow, it tells us the name of our file. We can save it now if we've made any changes. We have our undo and redo buttons up here in the top right hand side. Then we also have a troubleshooting button. So if you're struggling with something, you can browse tutorials, you can take a tour, you can view the gestures, the touch shortcut, keyboard shortcuts, or get online help if you're really struggling with the app. Then you have the share button. So if you tap on this, you can insert a person that you would like to share this document with. And then you can also choose what access this person with the link has. Then we have our share and export button. In here, we can publish and export the file in different formats such as PNG, JPEG, PSD, or PDF. We can also find our time-lapse export here as well, just like in Procreate. So if you love those little time lapses of you creating your own artwork, you can do exactly the same here inside in the Save and Export section. Other features to look out for in this Share and Export menu is a quick export, so you can quickly export a snapshot of it to your camera roll or to your files. You can also use this button, which I absolutely love, to push it to desktop. So using continuity to open it up in Adobe Illustrator on iPad or Adobe Illustrator on desktop. So you don't have to airdrop, you don't have to save the file and then open it up from your files on your desktop. You can literally press this button and then Adobe Illustrator on your desktop will open up the file and you can continue working on it over there. Then you have your settings. So again, you can rename the canvas, you can change the dimensions, you can flip the canvas horizontally or vertically, you can rotate it. You can also access your app settings from here, so you can go in and find all of the app settings, which you can also find from your home screen by tapping on your little profile picture as I shared with you at the start of the video. And finally, this little button here clears away all of your tools, so you can just kind of preview your image. And that is everything in the Adobe Fresco app. I hope that you found this mini tour of the Adobe Fresco app helpful and that hopefully Adobe Fresco is feeling a little bit less intimidating. If you liked this video, be sure to click that thumbs up button. And as I said at the beginning, if there is something specific that you would like to learn how to do in Adobe Fresco, or there is a particular tool that you have been struggling to figure out, go ahead and jump into the comments and let me know what tools or features or tips and tricks you would like me to cover in upcoming episodes of this mini series. If you haven't done so already, this is your little reminder to click that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so that you don't actually miss out on any of the next episode in this series. In the next episode, we're going to be diving deeper into those amazing brushes inside an Adobe Fresco. I'm going to be breaking down what the difference is between the pixel brush, the live brushes, and my personal favorite, the vector brushes, and which one you should be using depending on what your art style is, your current skill levels are, or what you're intending to create with your artworks inside an Adobe Fresco. So be sure to click that subscribe button and stick around for that episode coming soon. In the meantime, if you would like to dive deeper into Adobe Fresco, if this is the first video you're finding and you're a little bit more curious about how it compares to Procreate, then you might be interested in watching this video next. I will chat with you guys in the comments and I will see you in the next episode.